Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to break down what it actually takes to learn to fly a paraglider, and it all starts right here on the ground. All right, let's just get one thing straight right out of the gate. This comes directly from the training manuals. Paragliding is an extreme sport, and with it comes some very, very real risks. We're talking serious injury or even worse.
So that makes you wonder, right? If it's so risky, how on earth do you see pilots flying for decades completely injury-free? What's their secret?
Well, the answer, and you're going to see this theme again and again, isn't about being some kind of daredevil in the sky. Nope. It all comes down to what happens on the ground, way before you even think about taking off. So let's get into it. The very first lesson, and honestly the most important one, has zero to do with your gear or the weather. It's all about what's happening right up here, in your mind. Okay, so think about this for a second. If I asked you, what's the number one most important factor for a pilot's safety? What would you guess? Is it how skilled they are? How much they know? Or maybe the fancy gear they're using? The answer, and this is the absolute heart of safe flying, is the pilot's judgment. That's it. It trumps everything else. It's the one thing that will save your skin when everything else goes wrong.
And for a beginner, this is crucial. Good judgment means you have to accept that you just don't know enough to make these calls by yourself yet. You have to rely on your instructor. They're your safety net. That decision to fly, it's a team decision. And if you're not comfortable, for any reason, you just don't go. End of story.
All right, so now that we've got the mindset part down, which is huge, let's talk about the fun stuff, the gear. And make no mistake, this is your very own personal aircraft.
Now, what's really important to get is how these wings are rated. It's not about which one's the fastest or the coolest. It's all about safety first. As a brand new pilot, you are going to be on an A-rated wing. Think of it as the most forgiving, most gentle wing out there. It's designed with what's called passive safety, which basically means it wants to fly right and will often correct itself if something goes a little wonky.
Okay, before any pilot takes off, and I mean any pilot, every single time they do a pre-flight check. It's a non-negotiable ritual. A really common one to remember is R1234. You're physically touching and checking every single critical connection. You're not just looking, you're feeling it, making absolutely sure nothing gets missed.
So you might be wondering, a paraglider doesn't have an engine, right? So how the heck does it stay up in the air, sometimes for hours and hours? Well, it's all about becoming a master of the invisible forces around you, aerodynamics and weather.
Every wing has this default speed, its happy place. It's called trim speed. If you just put your hands up and didn't touch the controls at all, this is how fast the glider would fly through the air all by itself. It's its natural, stable cruising speed. And that brings us to a super important idea, the difference between your airspeed and your ground speed. So let's say your wing's trim speed is 20 miles an hour. That's how fast you're cutting through the air. But if you're flying into a 5-mile-an-hour headwind, your speed over the ground is actually only 15. And that, right there, is why you always, always, always launch and land into the wind. It just slows everything down and makes it way safer.
Okay, so you've got the right mindset, you've triple-checked your gear, you get the basic physics of it all. So what's next? Well, the flight itself. We can break it down into 3 simple phases.
Phase 1, the takeoff. And let's bust a myth right now. You do not jump off a cliff. You run. And how you run, specifically leaning forward, is unbelievably important. So why is that?
It's because you are the engine. You have to generate your own airspeed. By leaning forward and running hard, you keep the lines tight and you inflate that wing until it has enough speed to actually fly. If you stop running too early, or worse, if you jump, the wing can just stall and collapse right there on launch. The rule is, you run and you don't stop running until your feet are completely off the ground and the wing is flying on its own.
All right, you're up, you're flying. Now, controlling the glider is all about being smooth and gentle. But there is one move, one thing you can do with the controls that's an absolute no-go up at altitude. What do you think it is? It's pulling both brakes all the way down. Think of it like this. It's not a brake pedal in a car. Pulling them all the way down basically chokes the wing of air. It stops being an airfoil, stops flying, and can fall behind you. It's called a full stall, and it's a really bad situation to be in. You want to be smooth like you're gently steering a car, not slamming on the brakes. Okay, phase 3, landing. This is all about timing your flare. That's the big, final pull on the brakes to slow you down for a nice, soft touchdown. It's a skill that takes a ton of practice. So what happens if you get a little antsy and you flare too early? Well, the absolute worst thing you can do is just keep pulling. If you do that, you'll stall the wing, but this time you're maybe 10 feet off the ground, and that's going to hurt. The right move is to actually stop the flare. Just hold your brake position, let the glider fly a little further, and then finish the flare right at the last second. It's all about that timing. And look at that, we've come full circle. All of this stuff we've talked about, the gear, the techniques, the physics, it all boils down to that one thing we started with. Because, look, knowing the theory of how to land is one thing, but actually doing it perfectly when the wind is gusty and swirling around you, that takes judgment. And even more important, having the judgment to look at the sky and say, you know what? Not today. That decision, the decision not to fly, is probably the single most important skill a pilot can ever have. The bottom line is this: becoming a good, safe pilot isn't something you just achieve. It's not a finish line. It's a constant process of learning, of being brutally honest with yourself about your own skills and limitations, and always trying to make the smartest call. So you can learn the fundamentals, you can learn all the techniques, but the real question is this: when you're 1,000 feet up and you have a split second to make a decision, would you make the right one? It all comes back to a choice you make right here on the ground, to put your judgment before your ego, before everything else. And that, right there, is what separates the pilots who enjoy this sport for a lifetime from the ones who don't.